Good afternoon, everybody. This is Brittany Jennings coming to you live from the Seniors Blue Book. Today I'm joined by Amy Schenk, the Program Manager of the Alzheimer's Association. Good afternoon, Amy.
Oh, good afternoon, Brittany. I'm glad to be with you today.
So excited to have you. You've got your purple blazer on. I wish I had one, but I went with this background instead.
Well, that's good. So you got that. I have a green background, purple blazer. So I think we're hitting the mark.
Yeah, we color coordinated, some may say.
We did.
So I'm super excited for you to be here with us today because you're going to share all of the innovative ways that the Alzheimer's Association is keeping up with what's been happening in the world and still providing those resources that are absolutely, if maybe even now more than the most necessary they've ever been. So, but first I want to talk about you a little bit personally and just kind of your background and how you got involved with the Alzheimer's Association.
Well, kind of a funny story, a long story. I started my career 40 years ago as a nurse, and if you can believe it, in neurology. So it was back in the day before we really knew anything about Alzheimer's disease. Actually, kind of a fun fact, the Alzheimer's Association was established by a family caregiver in 1980, happened to be when I graduated from nursing school. So it's the big 4-0. And really the thing that's interesting is we have learned so much in how we interact and how we support people. So I have been in healthcare leadership my entire life. Started again back in the good old days as a registered nurse, and I've done a variety of different healthcare leadership jobs. I'm originally from Northwest Ohio, so I've been down here in Florida. Gosh, this is coming on year 7. And I've done several different things. I've worked in the senior living industry, long-term care. It's some time in my multiple year career I've worked in dialysis, home care, ambulatory care, acute care. It's like, okay, I think I've pretty much hit the jackpot. And I really found my real calling here with the Alzheimer's Association. Many of my colleagues have a personal or family connection with the disease, and mine was more professional, because that's really kind of where I started. But in our family, my husband's aunt and my husband's grandfather both had Alzheimer's disease. So it's kind of interesting to approach this from more of a professional caregiver perspective, but also having seen the family impact. And I feel like I kind of am right where I'm supposed to be, kind of where I started out. I've come back, but I've come back in a little bit different in a different role, and have the opportunity to have an impact on a wider range of people.
Absolutely. And we were talking a little bit before this, just, how life has changed. And is there anything that, kind of at home that you're doing differently, that maybe a new hobby or task or house project that you've been working on?
Well, I wish I could tell you that I've been super productive. Okay, I haven't. But what I have done, well, there's good intentions. You think about, oh gosh, if I had time, I'd do all this. Yeah, no. But what I have done is had the opportunity to kind of up my Netflix game. And I am a huge, huge professional football fan. And I watched almost every minute of the NFL draft. I kid you not, last weekend.
Nice.
So, I'm just holding up hope that we're going to have a season this year. I'm not going to look too far in advance. But you know what? It's been great. Our whole family's home, and the 4 of us haven't all been together for 3 years. So I'm really enjoying that. And I am enjoying my lanai a great deal.
Good. I love that you said you stepped up your Netflix game. I'm gonna use that term. I saw a meme. One thing that's been getting me through this whole thing is just continuously the funny memes that are popping up on social media platforms. And one of them just said, it was plain, it just said, "I finished Netflix today." It made me laugh so hard because I'm like, that's exactly like, we're always looking for new shows to watch, to get addicted to, whatever it is, movies.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Well, all right, so I'll ask the question. Have you watched Tiger King?
Oh, yes, I have.
Okay, I just needed to make sure, because I thought I was going to avoid doing that. Amazingly, I got sucked right in and did that in about a day. But that is, sometimes the Alzheimer's and dementia journey is unusual and it takes different twists and turns. No, Tiger King. It's crazy.
Tiger King. And I think everybody who's watching, in our audience, I'm sure that they probably have too, whether they admit it or not. And they had the bonus episode too, that of course,
I saw that.
Had to tune into. I actually even made my own spin-off where I ordered a wig off of Amazon, and I did a Carol Baskin video on my personal
Okay.
page because it was, I'll share it with you after. So much fun. But anyways, getting back to the point. So tell us, give us a general overview of the Alzheimer's Association and just kind of the mission behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you may not know that we are the largest voluntary health organization that we contribute the most to Alzheimer's and dementia research of any non-governmental agency. And I have to tell you, I didn't know that actually when I joined the organization. But before we kind of had our certain set of circumstances, as the program manager, what my responsibilities were making sure that I was developing education, awareness, programming, and face-to-face programming. I mean, we've been very blessed to do programs that have many, many people who attend them. Not just general education programs, but also a concept called Caregiver College, where we have a multi-week kind of a program that focuses on what information caregivers need as they go through the journey. In addition to that, we all have a network of support groups. I didn't realize, and I found out recently, that we have over 200 in the state of Florida.
Wow,
and in the counties that I'm responsible for, we have closer to 2025. The other thing that we do is we help coordinate resources, and we're available to caregivers just to help them, sometimes just to listen and develop a plan for them on how they can deal with the current situation that they have with their loved one. Well, we were talking earlier, March 12th. March 12th was the day that the organization decided, based on, and we're a national organization, our home office is in Chicago, so decisions are made nationally, that it would be best for all of the workforce to work at home. Well, I think that makes a great deal of sense, but if you take a step back, all of our programming is done in person. Our support groups are in person. We typically do, and a lot of our counseling, we can do counseling over the phone and in person. And so we were like, whoa, what do we do? And I have to give a great shout out to our team because we were very committed to making sure those resources continued on, even though the world kind of turned upside down. So what we're doing now, we always have had our 24/7 helpline, the magic 800 number, 800-272-3900. And I'll talk more a little bit about the beauty of the helpline, but the helpline is always available. But gosh, how are we going to do support groups? And when you think about it, in times like these, gosh, support is even more needed. So what we did, and we did it amazingly quickly, is all of our support groups went from being in-person groups to telephonic groups, and we didn't miss a beat. So we still have that opportunity for caregivers to connect. Then our next big project was, well, gosh, how are we going to do our programming if we can't be with people? And we had a great team effort that put together on a really pretty short notice programming, kind of our general education programming, which are topics that are of interest to anyone in the community. We put that made all of those programs virtual. So instead of having programming online, which we do have, sometimes that you just don't have that live person connection. So now what we're doing is, just as I'm doing with you, we're doing programming and we're doing it instructor-led. Then we also have added additional programs that are more caregiver focused. So our programs on effective communication and understanding and responding to dementia-related behavior. I mean, certainly all people are welcome to come to those, but those are a little more caregiver specific. And I think I did send to you, I think you do have our flyer for what we're calling our Brain Bus program. Our Brain Bus, we actually have two vehicles. There really is a bus, a big bus, and a little bus. And of course, right now, guess what? We can't get on the road. So there's a picture of our beautiful Winnebago. Our virtual Brain Bus is graciously funded by the Department of Elder Affairs. And we needed to take that program and figure out how we were going to get to everybody without the bus. So the schedule that you have here are all of our programs that we are offering for the community. 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's disease, which is a great one because so many times people say, well, Amy, is this really something I should worry about? Or am I just getting older? And let's face it, we're all getting older. And in an environment where we're kind of stressed like we are now, one of the things that can be impacted is our memory. What I'm really excited about is that we're not only offering programming in English, but we also have programming in Spanish so that we are meeting the needs of our Spanish-speaking constituents. And we are blessed to be able to have more than one program offered in Spanish. So we've tried to kind of work around what are some of the best times. And these are typically times where it seems like it's a good time for people to connect. So the one thing that people need to know is all you need to do to participate in the program is register. And you do have the flyer. Another way to register is our infamous helpline number that I shared with you, and I'll share again. Everything that we offer is at no cost. You can attend as many programs as you want. You can attend the same program more than once. And really what we want to do, particularly if folks do have a little bit of downtime now, we want to encourage everyone who's participating today, but share it with your neighbors, your family, your friends. One of the things that I found is that Alzheimer's disease and dementia, those are topics that quite frankly, until you need to know something about them, you might not want to learn about them. It's not like, oh, I don't want to, I don't even want to think about that. Well, you know what? In the United States today, 5.8 million people have Alzheimer's disease. I mean, that's a significant number. And here in the state of Florida, it's over 500,000. So just because we learn about a topic doesn't in any way make you susceptible to Alzheimer's and dementia, but learning more and learning the difference between changes that are normal for all of us, or maybe changes to get checked out, or learning ways to stay healthy for both your body and brain, and really understanding what Alzheimer's disease is. Again, these are things that I really want everyone to know. So for our programming here, share it far and wide, particularly because you know what? Even though there are going to be some changes in what's open in the state of Florida, and I'm sure we're going to be hearing things from Governor DeSantis real soon, we're still going to have some time on our hands. So maybe instead of doing Netflix, which is clearly what I like to do, maybe there's some educational programs or learn something new. Just a little tip for you. One of the things that you can do, and we talk a lot about 10 ways to love your brain, is to learn something new. So here's a great way for you to learn a little bit, share with other people, and be connected. So I really encourage you to join. And I'm having a lot of fun doing the programming. So, and I don't like to present to myself. So come to some of the programs, particularly our communication, behavior, and dementia conversations. So it's a shameless plug for the programs that I'm doing.
Plug away.
Well, you know what, it's hard, and I love to do in-person programming, but there could be a lot of reasons that it's difficult to get to a program. You may not be able to leave your loved one, but you may be able to do it on your iPad, or you may be able to do it on your computer. So here's the time to do that. As I mentioned, we do have programs that are on our website. So those you can do and take at any time. The only downside is that we don't have the opportunity for live question and answers and kind of an instructor-led platform. But for some people, those work as well. And the beauty of this is it's available pretty much to the entire state. You don't have to live in a particular region to attend a session. If you're in the state of Florida, or even not in the state of Florida, if you have family members, and so many of us down here, gosh, we may have loved ones elsewhere. And what I hear a lot is sometimes the person who's the caregiver here, their loved ones, maybe it's an adult child or perhaps a sibling who really don't understand as much. Well, guess what? You can invite them to this programming and they can learn right along with you, because the more I think everyone knows, particularly caregivers, the better you can kind of put together a team, because caring for a loved one with Alzheimer's and dementia can be very overwhelming. And it's hard to do by yourself. So definitely want to have a team.
I always used to say that being a caregiver with somebody who does have Alzheimer's, dementia, any kind of memory impairment is a 25-hour day and an 8-day a
Absolutely.
week job. I mean, it's more than full time, and so people need a break. They need support. They need education. They need these programs. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, now more than ever, because we
Hmm.
kind of don't have a choice, where it's lovely to be with our family more now than ever and be creative, whether it's Netflix or whatever it is, puzzles. But people are definitely, I'm sure, some of them at their wits' end, and they're looking for ways to kind of relieve themselves and kind of get some breath back in. So I want to pull up your website too, if that's
Sure,
okay,
please do.
so that we can kind of look at that and see. Let's go right into here and get away from Facebook for a minute. There we go. So on your website, the helpline, of course, is listed up here
Right.
at the top. So is there anything that you want me to kind of click through and show?
Absolutely. Perfect. Go to help and support. So here, if you're looking for help or resources, if you have Alzheimer's disease yourself, you can go to that section. If you're curious about some more tips for brain health, other than learning something new, you can do that. But go to the caregiving section, Brittany, because that's where we have a lot of resources. So with caregiving, a whole number of things pop up. One is the different stages of the disease, as well as some of the behavioral expressions that we may see. Of course, we have our coronavirus tips and help for individuals who are caregivers for dementia. And you can, whatever one, that's kind of the home. So you can, why don't you just click on any one of the resources, and we can kind of talk about it.
Oops, did I click the wrong one?
That's okay.
Let me go back real quick. Let's go to the coronavirus. Oops, here.
Absolutely. Let's all right, so help and support. Go to caregiving.
Oh no, I clicked the I should have made you the host on this one. All right,
it is absolutely okay. Caregiving. Right. There you go. You got
it. Caregiving. All right.
And then go to the COVID-19 tips.
Here we go.
So just like many organizations, we want to make sure that we have information out there. And I think one of the key things, and it's really the first statement on kind of our overview, most likely dementia doesn't increase the risk to the best of our knowledge that we know. And let's face it, we're learning more and more every day. I mean, it's called the novel coronavirus because it's new, and we're learning new things pretty much every day. But because sometimes of dementia-related behaviors and memory loss, we have heard, and we've heard many times, the importance of washing our hands for 20 seconds and how critical it is to do that. Well, someone with memory issues, we may have told them many times, but they forget. So we need to be extra vigilant and make it as easy as possible for them to do that. I mean, so that's just one example. One of the other things that can be challenging is, and you said it, we're kind of all stuck at home. We're stuck at home together. And many times, and I talk about this a lot, the importance, and it's actually important for us too, but for people who have memory loss, Alzheimer's, or dementia, having a consistent routine can be very beneficial because you know what to expect. Routine brings a great deal of comfort and reassurance to us. Well, if part of your everyday routine was maybe every morning going out to breakfast, so for some socialization, or running those errands, it can be really difficult because we've disrupted the routine, and it can be really difficult for us to explain in a way that our loved one understands. So, I mean, I think of the whole coronavirus thing, it is an awful lot for all of us to get our mind around, but to have to reinforce and say to our loved ones, nope, we can't go today. Sometimes what I found is the less we say, the better. I always think about, so I'm not sure if you asked me right now, Brittany, to explain coronavirus to you, I could do it articulately, and maybe you could totally understand it. So with their loved ones who have a progressive brain disease, sometimes less is more. So if the routine is, you always went out for breakfast, and my loved one said, well, I want to go, I could launch into a detailed description as to why we can't do it and talk about sheltering at home and talking about the virus. I'd suggest maybe you do something else. Number one, as I said, it's hard for us to even get our head around the coronavirus and what it means for our health. And I think it could be very scary for our loved ones. So I probably wouldn't talk a whole lot about it. I may say, I want to go too, and we'll go as soon as we can. Now, that's actually a true statement. I'm not going to argue with my loved one to say, well, we can't go. Remember, I told you yesterday, we can't go anywhere because of this terrible virus.
Right.
That's the last thing I want my loved one to worry about. And I know that traditionally, again, if I were speaking to you, I could have that conversation and you could put it in perspective. It's not that our loved ones don't want to, their brain can't process that information. And so I say this a lot. We want to keep our environment as calm, as routine, as stress-free. And I kind of say that tongue in cheek because I'm not sure there's any environment that's stress-free for any of us, but as relaxing as possible. And so if we just think for ourselves how all of us are a little bit nervous, I'm going to say, if not a lot nervous. We don't want to translate that to our loved one. We want that environment to be as routine and predictable and calm as possible. And I think having said that, one of the things that I worry about is that being a caregiver, it's that 25-hour-a-day job, or sometimes feels like 48-hour-a-day job. You know what? Caregivers are doing the very best they can in a situation that none of us have faced. So I think it's really important as a caregiver to kind of put that in perspective. Sometimes doing the best we can is absolutely a-okay. We do need to pick our battles. Things have changed a little bit. Some things aren't getting done the way they would have been done in the past. And here's the message. And maybe I'm saying it for you and me just as much, Brittany. It's okay. It's okay. Calm, relaxed, little stress as possible. And sometimes we can't control what's going on out there, but how can we try and stay in that bubble? And it's difficult for those who are with the disease. It's absolutely very difficult. So those are things. There's some tips on here that can go into more detail for you. We also have, here we go. This is one that I should have said first off. If you notice significant changes in your loved one, so all of a sudden, they seem very, very different, really important, and particularly increased confusion, or maybe language or behavior is just very different. The first thing you want to do is contact your healthcare provider. Sudden changes in individuals who have Alzheimer's or dementia, typically those diseases come on very slowly. A sudden change, means you need to get it checked out. And so contact your healthcare provider first for direction. I'm sure you've realized, Brittany, kind of based on your experience too, people can develop a urinary tract infection, not even have the symptoms, but the symptoms that we see aren't maybe what we'd experience if we have it, but they're different. They're more confused. They're more mixed up. They're angrier. They're different. That they're different is a key sign.
Exactly.
One of the other things that I think we do have in our handout here is these are really tough times for caregivers whose loved ones are in a residential living community. And the decisions that were made to not allow visitors in our senior care communities, on the surface, it makes a great deal of sense. We want to make sure that our loved ones are protected. We want to make sure that we've done everything to keep them safe. But what does that do? That impacts our ability to see them. And we know that it's hard for our loved ones. And let's face it, it's really hard for us as well. So I know that a number of communities are trying to be as innovative as possible to make sure that family connection is still there. I know that some places have days where there's FaceTime, or they're doing live events, or they're doing that connection. I know we've probably all seen on TV sometimes family members visiting their loved ones from outside of their window if they're on the first floor. This is challenging, and it really does impact our routine. And it's also a loss. So if you're a caregiver whose loved ones is in a community, and we know they're being well taken care of, but part of our routine is that we see them every day, or we see them every other day. That's how we fulfill that role as a caregiver. And not being able to do that, that's a loss. And when we have losses, there's grief that's associated with that. And sometimes it comes out in a lot of different ways. It can come out in being angry. It can come out in being frustrated or being overwhelmed or depressed. Fill in the blank. All of those feelings are very, very normal. And so one thing that I think is important is just, if you're feeling out of sorts and you're feeling those feelings, it's normal and it's okay. It's a significant change and loss. And one of the things that, even though we talked about it here in terms of my inability to get things organized with all my extra free time, but I still give the advice to caregivers. So what are you going to do with all your time? That time when maybe you were with your loved one. And certainly I know that they miss you a great deal and you miss them. So maybe you can carve out a little time for yourself to do something that you always wish you had time to do, and now you do. And it doesn't have to be anything big or grand. Maybe you want to read that book, or maybe you want to watch, Tiger King. Or maybe there's a project you want to work on, or maybe you just want to take a nap, or fill in the blank and write down the things that you wish you could have done. The other thing is that I think there's still opportunities to communicate with our loved ones. And I was just told a story that I thought, this is great. So caregivers were writing notes to their loved ones, but they were also including things and maybe having cards that had some texture to them. Their loved ones were getting those cards in their community, and they were carrying them around. Look what I got. Look what I got. And those are ways to still stay connected. You don't have to write a novel. You could say, love you, miss you, put a photograph in the envelope. I'm doing it personally. I'm writing notes to, my mother-in-law lives in Northwest Ohio. So I'm taking pictures of the darn dog, send her to pictures of the dog. And not that we even communicate more than that. We wouldn't be going up there, but I kind of like the old school habit of physically writing a note. So we have, again, kind of the high-tech ways, but a phone call, particularly for caregivers. Is there somebody you've been thinking about and you just haven't had a chance to connect up with them? Or is there somebody you know who will be able to listen to you and kind of everything that you're going through now? Well, if you don't have a friend to do that, remember you can call our helpline, because these are things that we're dealing with. Sometimes it's okay to do nothing. Nothing is okay, because we all need time to recharge. And even if you think you're doing nothing, we're living through a pandemic. There are unseen stressors, unseen pressures, so much uncertainty. So nothing is actually okay. Or sit outside, look at our beautiful nature around you. It doesn't have to be anything big. That's my concern. Is there something new you can do? If you really would like to maybe take on a bigger challenge, I know there are a great number of shelters and rescues that are looking for people to foster a pet. And you may not be ready for a full-time commitment, or maybe you are. I have one of the gentlemen that I work with in one of our caregiver support groups said, I wish I did have a puppy and I could get my dog out to walk, because I feel like I'm really closed in here. And in our support group, we were talking about, what are the things that kind of keep you sane? And one of my other members said, well, I have to go out. I have to walk the dog. I have to stay on top of it. So again, you may or may not be a pet person, but fostering an animal, shorter term commitment. And you know what? There are a lot of animals that need love. And it's not so much the love we give them, it's what they give us back.
Oh, I know. I have 4 of them now. So I
Right.
actually, people keep joking about how, there's going to be a population perhaps increase after this, and how many people are fostering or have adopted
Right.
dogs. And we're one of those people that we added one to our family. And I
See?
can't tell you how special, like I was like, oh, we already have 3, 4 is a little too many. No, 4 has like completed our tribe. And I love, like, they were kind of like a clan before, and now they're the tribe. And so I think that's an excellent idea, because that unconditional love you can't
Mhm.
replace. And so for people, like you said, like caregivers, people that need an outlet, that need to get outside, and it's an excellent idea. And just out of curiosity, can you share with us, is there any opportunity through the Alzheimer's Association for volunteers currently, or how is that working?
Oh, you know what, Brittany, that is a great question. So you would think right now everything is, gosh, we're not moving forward. Well, we're always looking for volunteers. So, and there are a lot of different ways you can volunteer. So I'll give you kind of kind of an overview. Um, the biggest fundraising event in the world is the Walk to End Alzheimer's, and that's our feature event. We typically do that every fall. We are going to find a way that we do the walk event, but we are always looking for people to volunteer on our teams. And guess what? We're having all of our meetings just like this, via technology. We're still connected. In fact, I feel that we talk to our entire team more than we ever did in the past. So that's a wonderful way to give back, be a team captain, communicate, and be a leader in your community to help us with the Walk to End Alzheimer's. But we also have another event that is really a fun event, and it's called The Longest Day. Well, the longest day is traditionally held on the longest day of the year, which is June 21st. And the goal of Longest Day is to raise some money by doing something fun. Whatever you want to do to bring awareness to the disease. Now, it may look a little different this year. We still don't know, because we don't know what the future holds. But last year, my Longest Day event was really so much fun. I can't stand it. And we're going to do it again. Myself and my development manager did a really insane and crazy lip sync battle. We're just going
I
to leave
have
it at
those.
that.
I didn't know you had that talent. I have to jump in because I have those once a week. And so you might be an opponent for me in the upcoming weeks.
I will promise you, I take this more seriously than I do a lot of things. I already have my whole repertoire set up.
I love it.
Maybe I could be working on my lip sync, but it was so much fun because it was ridiculous. So the Longest Day. So those are really kind of our fundraising opportunities. But gosh, we have opportunities for volunteers in a lot of other capacities as well. The majority of our support group facilitators are volunteers, and we give them training, support, materials, but they are those dedicated, amazing, compassionate people who typically lead a group sometimes once a month, sometimes more than that, and they are there to facilitate and kind of be that conduit for caregivers who need the connection. We also, but just to top that, we also are looking for volunteers to help us spread information in the community. So we have community educator volunteers who, I'm one person and I cover 5 counties, and some of my colleagues cover more than that. So what we're doing is really kind of expanding our team. I have some amazing volunteers who, again, are trained and are selected and really scheduled for programming to kind of get the word out there. We also have other opportunities. We have people who just maybe can't make that commitment, but would love to be part of health fairs for us. We have people who would love to be part of our brain bus. So even though we're doing things virtually now, we have volunteers who are a part of the brain bus. They greet people, they kind of support with the whole process. If you want to be involved with the association and you have some time and flexibility and energy and commitment, you can apply, and you can Google Alzheimer's Association volunteers. We actually have a brand new program, a portal where you can see what kind of opportunities there are. So there's more ways. You probably, gosh, if I'd ask that question, oh my gosh, we can put you to work. And really, we're successful because of our volunteers.
Right.
Volunteers, I thought of a whole other area I didn't mention. We have volunteers who work in our advocacy areas. So earlier today, I mentioned I was on a town hall meeting with one of our congressmen and our public policy team, and we had two of our volunteer advocates who were on the call, but what they also do is they go with the team to Tallahassee to talk about and to represent the association, but also caregivers and the importance of funding for the disease. Not only do they go to Tallahassee, we have an annual rally in Tally, but we have our dedicated volunteer advocates who also go to Washington, D.C. So again,
That's
if there's
awesome.
an area of interest, we could probably find a way to get you connected in.
Okay, so perfect. So again, people can Google Alzheimer's Association volunteers, and then the website will pop up, and they can. That's what I kind of figured. There is probably some kind of portal where you could pick and choose
Right.
kind of what you're interested in. So that's awesome.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing. And thanks for sharing. I mean, you shared a wealth of information with our viewers, everybody today that's watching. I think everybody will walk away with at least 2 or 3 new ideas of things they can do at home as a caregiver, or, you know, a lot of people, there's professionals watching. So it's a lot of good information overall. So I always ask people this kind of at the end of our videos, like words of wisdom, but what are maybe 3 pieces of advice that you would leave people with today?
Well, Brittany, first off, thank you so much for having me. It's been delightful. It's great to see you again. And I think, you know, let's look at the world that we're in. Everything I say, it's like we took the snow globe and we turned it upside down and shook it. So I think this applies to caregivers, but also to us. And I think we need to take it to heart as well. You know what? We need to give our loved ones grace. If our loved ones are on the Alzheimer's or dementia journey, we need to give them grace and others around us grace. And most importantly, we need to give ourselves grace. We've never been faced with a situation like this. Caregiving at any time can be stressful, overwhelming, wonderful, and also difficult at the same time. So grace, give yourself grace and give your loved one grace. And you know what? If you're a caregiver and you are doing your very best, it is good enough. And I always say there's not a gold medal waiting for anyone to be the best caregiver ever. If you're a caregiver, you get a gold medal because it's that challenging. So your best is good enough. And sometimes it's barely there and it's still good enough. So be kind. It gets back to that grace. And my favorite saying, I need to get a tattoo of this. So it's self-care is not self-indulgent. So many times people say to me, but I don't have time. I'm not important. I need to spend this time. My mom needs me. My wife needs me. This is what I need to do. And I'm going to tell you again, self-care is not self-indulgent. It actually can be life-affirming, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we won't be able to be there for the ones we love and we're caring for. And this is I always say, very simple concept, not easy to implement. So again, Brittany, it's been great to be here. Thanks for everything that you do in the senior community to really share information. I mean, you provide great resources, and we're really glad to collaborate with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And the last thing you said, it resonates always, because I've always told caregivers, it's kind of like when you're on an airplane, you have to put your oxygen mask on first. And then you have to be able to take care of yourself first, to take care of those that you love. And I've seen it so many times, just like you have, where that caregiver, naturally, we put our loved one first. So remember today, if anything, take care of yourself, be good to yourself. Like you said, you have some great words of advice from us too at Seniors Blue Book. We really appreciate our partnership with you at Alzheimer's Association, and you and Bernice and Ryan and everybody. You guys are amazing with everything you do. So thank you so much.
Well, and thank you too. And it's been great to be here with you. So everybody, self-care is not self-indulgent. So go do something nice for yourself.
I love that. All right. I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.